Sit back and enjoy 2 hours of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. Urban birds use cigarette butts to line their nests in order to repel parasites, as the nicotine in cigarettes acts as a natural pesticide. However, some studies also warn that these substances can be toxic to chicks, so their use involves both benefits and risks. Fabric was scarce in the United States in the 1930s, so women began using flour sack fabric to make dresses. In response, flour mills started printing their sacks in a wider range of patterns and colors. Cotton candy, which is famous for being bad for our teeth, was actually invented by a dentist named William Morrison. He created it together with a confectioner for a fair in the early 20th century, using a machine that melted sugar and spun it into fine threads. Interestingly, the product was sold as a fun and affordable novelty, despite the contradiction with its creator's profession. This is Missy, the most valuable cow in the world. She produces 50% more milk than an average cow and has superior genetics. Her value is $1.2 million, and her embryos are in high demand. It is not entirely true that no two snowflakes are alike. Snowflakes actually fall into just one of 35 different shapes. These shapes correspond to general classifications based on how ice crystallizes depending on temperature and humidity, such as plates, columns, or dendrites. However, within each category, microscopic variations are practically infinite, making it extremely unlikely that two snowflakes are identical in every detail. The pet rock became so popular when it was first released that, within 6 months of its launch, Gary Dahl, the inventor, made $15 million. This unusual product, sold as a pet that required no care, included a box with ventilation holes and a humorous instruction manual. The idea became a cultural phenomenon in the 1970s and demonstrated how creative marketing can turn something simple into a massive success. Tokyo has its own superhero. His name is Mangetsuman, a self-made hero who has taken on the responsibility of keeping the city clean. He wears a full moon head, a purple suit, oversized Ugg boots with matching gloves, and uses a voice dictation app to hide his voice. I feel like New York City needs one of those. During the Meiji era in Japan, there was a custom called ohaguro, where people dyed their teeth black. This prevented tooth decay, and during that time, it was actually considered beautiful. It was common among married women and members of the nobility, as it symbolized maturity and social status. The dye was made from a mixture of iron dissolved in vinegar and other ingredients, forming a protective layer over the teeth. With the modernization of the country, this practice gradually disappeared. Surprisingly, the human brain, the universe, and the internet have similar network patterns and the same growth dynamics. That is really cool. Studies have compared the structure of neural connections with the distribution of galaxies and digital network links, finding similarities in how they are organized and expand. Although they function on completely different scales, these coincidences have sparked great interest in science in understanding common principles of complex organization. The Luna moth does not have a mouth, so it does not eat. It only lives for about a week, and its only purpose is to mate. During its adult stage, it survives on the energy it stored as a caterpillar and uses pheromones to attract a mate over long distances at night. Its short life is an example of a biological strategy focused entirely on reproduction. According to a study conducted in 2012, people who complain live longer, by about 2 years. This is because by complaining, they release their tension, which increases their immunity and improves their health. It is hot in here. I am tired and I need a drink. Oh, I have one right here. Around 70% of the world's spice production comes from a single country, India. This country cultivates a huge variety that includes pepper, turmeric, cardamom, and cloves, many of them with highly valued designations of origin. In addition, India not only leads in production, but also in domestic consumption, as spices are essential in its traditional cuisine and have been part of its trade history for centuries. Bamboo is the fastest growing plant in the world. It can grow up to 36 inches in a single day. Some species reach this speed under ideal conditions, which makes it a widely used resource due to its rapid renewal and sustainability. The production of Nutella consumes approximately 25% of the world's hazelnut harvest. At least 10% of that comes from me. Most of these hazelnuts are grown in countries like Turkey, which leads global production, showing the enormous global impact of this popular product. There is a cryptid believed to inhabit the Gobi Desert called the Mongolian deathworm. It can grow up to 4.9 feet long and kills its prey with electric shocks from its eyes. The creature has been part of local folklore for generations, and although several expeditions have attempted to find evidence, its existence has never been scientifically proven. High atmospheric pressure affects the bubbles in your coffee. Therefore, if the bubbles are closer to the center, you can expect rain or other stormy weather. This phenomenon is related to changes in the liquid's surface tension, which reacts to variations in air pressure before visible changes in the weather occur. For many years, a Bulgarian man named Dobry Dobrev walked long distances, sometimes more than 12.4 miles a day, to collect donations that he gave entirely to orphanages and churches in need. Known for his extreme generosity, he lived very humbly and donated almost everything he received. He passed away in 2018 at the age of 103. There is a company called Hoxton Street Monster Supplies that sells salt made from real human tears. There are 4 types, harvested from different moments: sneezing, chopping onions, laughter, and anger. You can taste the emotion. In reality, it is part of a creative project linked to an educational organization that raises funds to support writing programs for children and young people. One of the largest animals that ever flew was the Quetzalcoatlus. It was a pterosaur as tall as a giraffe, had a wingspan of 33 feet, and could fly for 9,942 miles without stopping. It is believed that it took off using all 4 of its limbs and that it lived in coastal areas, feeding on small land animals rather than fish like other pterosaurs. There is an environmentally friendly spray coating for pavements called Star Path that makes the surface glow in the dark. Not only that, but it even adjusts to the level of natural light available. The darker it is, the brighter it glows. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Canada was actually the first Western nation to declare war on Japan. The United States followed the next day. This happened because Canada had greater autonomy to declare war independently at that time, while other Allied countries took a bit longer to formalize their response. Due to their small brains, koalas are unable to perform complex tasks that are unfamiliar to them, such as eating leaves from a flat surface. In addition, their diet is based almost exclusively on eucalyptus leaves, which are toxic and not very nutritious, so they sleep between 18 and 20 hours a day to conserve energy and process them. Human bone is ridiculously strong. 1 cubic inch of it can support the weight of 5 standard pickup trucks, making it 4 times stronger than concrete. Additionally, this strength is due to its internal structure, a combination of flexible collagen and minerals like calcium, which give it hardness and the ability to absorb impacts. Even over time, bones constantly regenerate, fully renewing themselves approximately every 10 years. In the first quarter of 2014, Apple generated such enormous revenue that it surpassed that of Google, Amazon, and Facebook combined during that same period. This fact illustrates the level of dominance it reached at the time, driven mainly by the success of the iPhone, becoming one of the clearest examples of the economic power of big tech companies. In 2004, during the annual football game between Harvard and Yale, Yale students tricked Harvard students into holding signs that spelled out "We suck," telling them it would spell "Go Harvard," and even so, Harvard ended up winning the game. An adopted man in Michigan named Steve Flegg searched for his biological mother for 4 years before finally discovering, in 2007, that she worked at the same Lowe's store where he worked. Incredibly, neither of them knew. April 11th, 1954 is known as the most boring day in history. Literally, not a single memorable thing happened that day anywhere on Earth. No important person died, no major events occurred, and the only interesting thing that really happened that day is that nothing happened. During World War I, there was a Christmas truce in 1914. In the week leading up to Christmas, German and British soldiers had a series of ceasefires where they entered no man's land to mingle and exchange seasonal greetings. That truce is seen as a symbolic moment of peace during one of the most violent events in history. Growing a beard can have health benefits, such as protecting you from the sun, preventing asthma attacks, and even slowing the aging process. Facial hair can act as a natural barrier against ultraviolet rays and help retain moisture in the skin, reducing dryness. Additionally, it can partially filter dust and allergens from the environment, which, in some cases, helps reduce respiratory irritation. James Cameron was homeless when he wrote Terminator and sold the rights for just $1 on the condition that he could direct it. Thanks to that agreement, he managed to keep creative control of the story, which allowed him to turn it into an influential film that boosted his career in Hollywood and redefined science fiction cinema at the time. It is dangerous to feed moose. No, do not do that. Moose that are fed by humans become aggressive if the next human does not feed them, and they may end up attacking them. Additionally, they lose their natural instinct to search for food and may get too close to roads or inhabited areas, increasing the risk of accidents. Authorities in several countries even impose fines for feeding them, as this practice alters their behavior and endangers both people and the animals themselves. There is a popular tourist destination in Chongqing, China, where part of the pavement is dedicated to cell phone users who are too busy looking at their screens to bother watching where they are going. Right next to it, another section of the road completely prohibits cell phone use. I feel like we need this in North America. Grumpy Cat, whose real name was Tartar Sauce, generated millions of dollars thanks to its internet fame. Through paid appearances, book deals, advertising campaigns, and a wide range of merchandise, it became one of the most commercially successful animals in digital culture. Sugar gliders are such social creatures that, if deprived of social interaction, they can become depressed and die. So make sure to love your gliders. They are sweet. In the wild, they live in groups and communicate through sounds and scents, forming very strong bonds that are essential to their well-being. On November 7, 1907, a Mexican railroad worker named Jesus Garcia single-handedly saved the population of a nearby town called Nacozari, Sonora, by driving away a train loaded with dynamite. The train exploded 3.7 miles from the town and killed the brave man in the process. The ugliest animal in the world is the blobfish, a deep-sea fish that can live between 1,968 and 3,937 feet underwater. This is due to its lack of flesh and muscle structure, and it only becomes gelatinous when it is out of the water. During World War II, two Polish doctors created a fake typhus epidemic, which stopped the Nazis, who had a fear of hygiene-related diseases, from sending around 8,000 Jews to concentration camps and executions. They used inactive bacteria to produce positive results in medical tests, successfully deceiving the occupiers and saving numerous lives without resorting to direct violence. In 1888, a pigeon breeder and a beekeeper challenged each other's creatures to a 3.5-mile race in Germany. The bee won by 25 seconds. This unusual event was recorded in the press of the time and is often cited as an example of the surprising speed and navigation abilities some insects can achieve. La Petite Syrah, a wine bar and bistro in Nice, France, charges extra to rude customers. People who simply order a coffee have to pay 7.50 euros, while adding a please lowers the price to 4.25 euros, and if you say hello, a coffee please, then you only have to pay 1.40 euros. The Tesla Model S not only achieved top safety ratings, but also helped redefine how modern cars are designed. Thanks to its low center of gravity from the batteries and its reinforced structure, it offers exceptional protection in collisions. The baobab tree naturally hollows out after 1,000 years. In fact, there is a 6,000-year-old baobab tree in South Africa right now that is so large and hollow that it can house a small building. This characteristic is due to its fibrous and spongy wood, which allows it to store large amounts of water and withstand extreme drought conditions. Some of these trees have been used as shelters, bars, or even living spaces, becoming true natural curiosities. The original release date of Halo 2 for PC was delayed because Microsoft discovered that one of the developers had hidden a photo of his butt in the game. This type of hidden content, known as an Easter egg, caused internal controversy and forced a review of the material before its official release. Elephants are smarter than people think. An elephant in India was trained to place logs into previously dug holes for a ceremony. On one occasion, it refused to place a log into a hole where a dog was sleeping and waited until the dog was moved before lowering the log into the hole. Alexander Solonik was a Russian criminal known as Superkiller, who was attributed with numerous attacks against members of the mafia before becoming part of that same world. Years after forming his own organization, he died under violent circumstances. FC Barcelona has a reverse sponsorship agreement with UNICEF, where the football club wears the UNICEF logo on its uniforms and donates 1.5 million euros per year to the organization. This agreement began in 2006 and was considered unusual in the world of football, as it prioritized a social cause over direct commercial revenue. In Japan, Nestle has introduced more than 200 different flavors of Kit Kat since 2000, including ginger ale, soy sauce, creme brulee, green tea, and banana. This variety is partly due to a strategy of limited editions and adaptation to local tastes, which has turned the product into a popular souvenir among tourists. I need to go to Japan. Stem cells may be able to extend human life. Researchers in Pittsburgh injected stem cells into white mice. Normally, their typical lifespan is 21 days, but after the injection, they lived for an additional 71 days. This is the equivalent of an 80-year-old human living to 200. Something tells me we are about to have a bit of an overpopulation problem. Potatoes absorb and reflect radio wave signals in the same way human bodies do. Because of this, engineers have used them in the past to test and improve Wi-Fi signals on airplanes. Useful and delicious. In Russia, there is a capsule used to treat alcoholism that is implanted under the skin and causes a chemical reaction, resulting in difficulty breathing, nausea, and mental confusion if the person drinks alcohol. Basically, it makes you feel the negative effects of a hangover without being drunk. Only 3 humans have died outside Earth's atmosphere. They were all traveling on the Soyuz 11 mission, which visited the world's first space station, Salyut 1. During the return, the capsule suffered an unexpected depressurization. After this incident, new safety measures were implemented to better protect astronauts on future missions. In 2009, archaeologists discovered fossils of a primitive species of crocodiles that actually galloped. They lived 100 million years ago, walked alongside dinosaurs, and sometimes even ate them. The first American woman to become a self-made millionaire was a woman named Sarah Breedlove, also known as Madam C.J. Walker. She made her fortune by developing a tonic that could make hair grow faster. In fact, you can take a ride on the Hogwarts Express. It is a real train in Scotland called the Jacobite and has been named the most beautiful railway route in the United Kingdom. Huracan was known as the Mayan god of wind and storms. His name means one leg in the Mayan language, and the word hurricane was derived from his name. He appears in texts such as the Popol Vuh, where he is associated with creation and destruction, representing the unpredictable force of nature. The world record for the most passengers carried on a commercial airplane was set on May 24, 1991, when more than 1,000 Ethiopian Jews were evacuated to Israel. The flight began with 1,086 people on the plane, but ended with 1,088 because 2 of them gave birth on the way to Israel. Sylvan Goldman, the inventor of shopping carts, had to hire models to push the carts in his store to make them more appealing to customers when they were first introduced. At first, many shoppers resisted using them because they associated them with wheelchairs or awkward baskets. But after seeing people use them naturally, the idea gained acceptance and ended up becoming an essential element in supermarkets around the world. Nike has already made self-lacing shoes inspired by Back to the Future a reality. The brand released a limited edition based on the movie and later developed commercial models such as the HyperAdapt and the Adapt line, which automatically adjust the fit using electronic technology. This is Tyson, a tiny dog considered one of the smallest in the United Kingdom. When he was a puppy, he could practically fit in the palm of a hand, with an incredibly small size that made him look almost like a toy. His small body and delicate appearance made him a true sensation. Toward the later years of his life, Voltaire developed the habit of living near country borders so that he could escape by crossing into another country if his writings angered authorities. That is actually pretty brilliant. In 1950, almost the entire Soviet hockey team died in a plane crash. The team's manager was Vasily Stalin, the son of Joseph Stalin. He feared his father's reaction to the accident and immediately recruited a whole new team. Surprisingly, his father never noticed the difference. James Watson, one of the scientists credited with the discovery of the DNA double helix, once said it would be great if we could make all people beautiful through genetic engineering that influences appearance. I am sure he was quite the charmer. Despite their size difference, praying mantises can easily catch and eat hummingbirds. That is terrifying. They use their fast, spiny front legs to grab their prey mid-flight, and although it is not common, this behavior has been documented on several occasions in different regions. In 1923, Bobby the Wonder Dog traveled 2,550 miles across the United States to reunite with his owners after getting lost in Indiana during a family road trip. Lobsters have a really strange anatomy. Their brains are in their throats, their nervous systems in their abdomens, their teeth in their stomachs, and their kidneys in their heads. Try to figure that out. It is like a glitch in nature. These adaptations allow them to process tough food and survive in demanding marine environments. In 2010, Mark Haub, a nutrition professor at Kansas State University, followed a diet consisting only of junk food, eating snack cakes, cookies, Doritos, and other junk food for 2 months to show his students that pure calorie counting is what matters most in weight loss. He lost 27 pounds. Istanbul has an estimated 150,000 stray dogs. A company called Pugidon has created a vending machine where food and water can be dispensed for dogs when people recycle their plastic bottles. This system encourages recycling while also helping take care of urban animals. Muhammad Ali once invited Billy Crystal to run with him at a local country club. Crystal accepted the invitation, but could not go because the club restricted entry to Jews. Because of that, Ali never returned to that club. Crows are one of the smartest animals on Earth. In fact, they try to hide their food from each other, but they only sometimes succeed because they are all very intelligent. Studies have shown that they can plan for the future, recognize human faces, and even deceive other crows by pretending to hide food in one place while actually storing it in another, showing surprisingly complex behaviors. According to the World Health Organization and UNICEF, washing your hands with soap is a more effective way to prevent disease than any vaccine that exists. This statement highlights its impact on public health, as it significantly reduces the spread of bacteria and viruses in communities with limited access to medical services. When Thor: The Dark World was released, a movie theater in Shanghai accidentally used a fan-made image as the official movie poster. How awkward. This type of mistake usually happens due to confusion in the distribution of promotional material, especially when unofficial images circulate on the internet. A study conducted in 2010 shows that women feel more attracted to men who wear red. The color makes men appear more powerful and of higher status, which leads to attraction. Research in psychology suggests that red is associated with signals of dominance and confidence, which can unconsciously influence perception. This effect has also been observed in competitive and social contexts, where color can alter how a person is evaluated. If a baby born to foreign parents is born on an airplane flying over the United States, the baby is automatically granted United States citizenship. However, if the baby is born while flying over the ocean, their nationality depends on the country in which the airplane is registered. The laws of the parents' countries can also play a role, as some apply jus sanguinis, allowing the baby to have more than one nationality. Because he did not like signing autographs, Marlon Brando's personal checks became collector's items. People often did not cash Brando's checks because his signature was worth more than the amount written on the check. James W. Rogers was the last man executed by a firing squad in the United States. His final request was a bulletproof vest. This type of execution was much more common in the past, especially in military contexts, but over time it was replaced by methods considered more modern. Today, it remains extremely rare and is only allowed under very specific circumstances in some states. Surprisingly, most energy drinks do not contain as much caffeine as coffee. A large coffee at Starbucks has 320 milligrams of caffeine, which is 4 times the 80 milligrams of caffeine that can be found in an average can of Red Bull. According to statistics, most cases of missing children are related to situations within the family environment, such as custody disputes, rather than the dramatic scenarios often shown in movies or television. The Carrot House in Warsaw is the narrowest house in the world, measuring only 36 inches at its narrowest point and 60 inches at its widest. It was designed as a habitable art installation and is inserted between 2 buildings, making use of an almost impossible space. Despite its size, it has the essentials for living, distributed across very compact levels. Halle Berry was named after the Halle department store, a landmark place in Cleveland where she was born. Her original name was going to be different, but her mother decided to change it in honor of that local site, which was very well known in the city at the time. A study conducted in 2011 shows that the brain responds to emotional pain in the same way it does to physical pain. So, when people say that rejection hurts, it is very true. Research using magnetic resonance imaging has shown that similar brain areas are activated, which explains why these experiences can feel so intense. The walled city of Saint-Malo, France, is famous for being a safe haven for pirates. Located on the coast of Brittany, this fortified city protected privateers authorized by the French crown, who attacked enemy ships and shared the loot with the king. Its strategic position and walls made it an important maritime and commercial center for several centuries. Jason Lewis traveled around the world between 1994 and 2007 by bicycle, rollerblades, kayak, and pedaling, becoming the first person to circumnavigate the globe purely using human power. In 1968, Samuel L. Jackson attended the funeral of Martin Luther King Jr. as one of the ushers. At that time, he was a college student and was involved in the civil rights movement, which deeply shaped his social perspective before becoming a well-known actor. Guide dogs are capable of going against their owner's instructions when they believe the command is not safe. This is called intelligent disobedience. This behavior is essential for protecting people, as the animal prioritizes safety even above direct obedience. In 2012, a man named Seth Horvitz ordered a television on Amazon and instead received a military-grade assault rifle. You cannot plug a PlayStation into that. In Norway, the use of cash has declined to minimal levels, with only a small fraction of transactions being made with physical money. Although it was once thought that the country could become completely cashless by 2020, in practice, this did not fully happen. However, Norway remains one of the most advanced places in the world for digital payments, where cards and mobile apps almost completely dominate everyday life. Beneath a space restriction in Sarporans, France, it is illegal to die there. This unusual municipal ordinance was issued as a symbolic measure to protest the lack of space in the local cemetery, although in practice, it is not literally enforced. When he was just 13 years old, Ashton Kutcher went through a very difficult moment when he saw his brother suffering from a heart condition. In the middle of that situation, he even thought about making a great sacrifice to help him, although over time, he was able to move forward together with his family. His brother eventually received the medical support he needed, and both have continued with their lives. In the Piedmont region, there is a massive pink stuffed bunny about 200 feet long, created by the art collective Gelatin. The installation was designed so that hikers could interact with it at the top of the hill, and although it was originally expected to decompose over time, visible remains of this curious artwork can still be found. In the movie The Matrix, Neo's passport expires on September 11, 2001. That is scary. This detail has caught the attention of many fans over time, as it coincides with a date that would later become tragically significant in real history, although it is simply a coincidence within the film's prop design. There are Yao Dong, or cave houses, located in northern China, where it is estimated that 40 million people currently live. These traditional dwellings are carved into loess soil, which allows them to maintain stable temperatures throughout the year, staying cool in the summer and warm in the winter. The Bob Marley song, No Woman, No Cry, is actually No Woman, No Cry in Jamaican. This translates to No Woman, Do Not Cry. And the song is about growing up in the ghetto and reassuring a woman that things will get better, so do not cry. Cats have adapted to fall from great heights. When they fall, they reach terminal velocity and rotate their bodies to place their paws underneath them and land properly. It is evolution. This phenomenon is known as the righting reflex, and allows them to orient themselves in the air in a matter of seconds. Additionally, their flexible bone structure and low body weight help absorb impact, increasing their chances of surviving even significant falls. In many countries, it is illegal to perform surgical procedures on an octopus without anesthesia due to its intelligence. These animals have a complex nervous system and have demonstrated abilities such as solving problems, opening containers, and learning through observation, which has led to them being granted certain legal protections. There is a town in Arizona called Nothing, and it is a ghost town, so there is literally nothing there. At one point, it had a small population and some basic services, but over time it was abandoned until it became practically deserted, which makes its name even more fitting. Tennis player Vitas Gerulaitis lost to Jimmy Connors 16 times before finally winning a match. After winning, he said, "Nobody beats Vitas Gerulaitis 17 times in a row." What a funny guy. The Ben Franklin effect is a psychological phenomenon in which someone who has done a favor for another person is more likely to do another favor for that person than if they had received a favor from them. This behavior is explained because people tend to justify their actions by aligning their attitudes with what they have already done, reinforcing a positive perception toward the person they helped. The name comes from Benjamin Franklin, who described this strategy in his writings. Hugh Jackman did not know that wolverines were real animals until he began filming X-Men. This animal is a robust and very strong mammal relative to its size, known for its aggressiveness and ability to travel long distances in extreme climates. Anopheles is a genus of mosquito that means useless in Greek, which makes a lot of sense, because, seriously, what are mosquitoes even for other than driving me crazy? However, some species of this genus are known for transmitting diseases such as malaria, making them one of the most dangerous animals for humans. In Canada, there is a candy called maple taffy that is made by pouring melted maple syrup onto clean snow, so that the cold of the snow quickly thickens the syrup to create a soft candy. Amazing! Red pandas use their long, bushy tails to maintain balance when they are in trees. Their tails are also used to cover themselves and stay warm in the winter. In addition, they wrap them around their bodies while sleeping to conserve heat in the cold mountain climates where they live, and they also use them as extra support when moving along narrow branches. To this day, 4% of the sand on the beaches of Normandy is made up of shrapnel from the original D-Day fighting. Remnants of bullets, metal fragments, and other materials still remain mixed with the sand, and objects from World War II occasionally continue to appear after storms or coastal erosion. Babies are actually able to give a thumbs up in the womb. Seriously, you know you are going to have a cool kid when they do that. This type of movement can be observed through ultrasounds and is part of normal motor coordination development before birth, and some fetuses also suck their thumbs. Microwaves use more electricity to power their clocks than to heat food, so you might want to consider unplugging them when you are not using them. In reality, standby consumption is constant but low, while heating food requires much more energy in a short time. Even so, that passive consumption can add up with daily use, and reducing it by unplugging the appliance or using power strips can help save electricity in the long term. The phrase, happy wife, happy life, is actually quite accurate. A study conducted in 2014 shows that men who are unhappily married can still be happy with their lives overall if their wives are satisfied with their marriages. When anglerfish mate, they actually fuse into a single fish. The male permanently attaches itself to the female's body, losing its independent organs over time, and depends entirely on her for nutrients while remaining attached for the rest of its life. Interestingly, blood has properties similar to eggs in cooking and can be used as a viable substitute for baking and making ice cream. Anyone want red velvet cake? This is due to its protein content, which can coagulate and provide structure, although its use is uncommon in modern cooking. When Gary Nell, then president of Sesame Workshop, was asked about the relationship between Bert and Ernie, he explained that the characters are designed to represent a close friendship and teach values like coexistence and respect. He pointed out that, being puppets, they do not have a defined orientation, as their main purpose is educational and focused on children. Norway offers incredible incentives for people who own electric cars, such as free parking, free charging, and the use of bus lanes. Thanks to these policies, the adoption of electric vehicles grew rapidly to become one of the highest in the world. Over time, the success became so great that some of these advantages began to be limited or adjusted to balance infrastructure use and maintain system sustainability. While we have leap years, we also have leap seconds that are added every few years to adjust to the Earth's rotation speed. These seconds are determined by international organizations and are usually added to atomic clocks to maintain synchronization with solar time. Kim Jong-nam is the older brother of Kim Jong-un and was supposed to be the successor of Kim Jong-il. However, he fell out of the line of succession when he tried to use a fake passport to enter Disneyland in Japan. I cannot blame him. It is a place of wonder and magic. Elvis Presley only failed one class while he was in high school, music class. According to the story, his teacher believed he had no talent because he did not follow the traditional techniques taught in class. Despite this, he continued developing his style on his own, influenced by gospel and blues, which later led him to become one of the most influential figures in modern music. Knowledge of silk production was for a long time one of the best-kept secrets in China, protected for more than 3,000 years. It was so valuable that there were severe penalties for those who revealed it, which helped maintain exclusive control of this technique for centuries. The word mortgage comes from French and means death pledge. referring, of course, to the death of a loan because a mortgage is amortized. It comes from the term mortgage, where mort means death and gage means pledge, indicating that the obligation ends when it is fully paid or when it is defaulted on. A group called the Mineko Club in Japan created zoo jeans to raise money for the World Wildlife Fund and the local Kamine Zoo in the city of Hitachi. Lions, tigers, and bears designed the jeans by tearing them, creating a distressed style. The jeans are then auctioned for charitable purposes. You are more likely to come up with a great idea while doing something monotonous, such as exercising, driving, or showering. This is because we are more relaxed and less distracted, allowing dopamine to flow through our body and activate our thoughts. William Shakespeare added more than 1,700 words to the English language. Some of those words include new, dazzling, and yes, swagger. Many of them appeared for the first time in his works and later became popular as he had great creativity for combining terms, turning nouns into verbs, and playing with language, deeply influencing the evolution of modern English. There is a Wikipedia monument located in Słubice, Poland. It was inaugurated in 2014 and pays tribute to the thousands of volunteers who edit the encyclopedia, highlighting the global impact of collaborative knowledge in the digital age and free access to information. The Goliath tigerfish is the largest of the tigerfish clan and can be found in the Congo River Basin. In fact, it is so large that it is known to eat small crocodiles and has attacked humans on several occasions. Death by giant fish. It has extremely sharp teeth and great strength, making it one of the most feared freshwater predators in Africa. In 1995, NASA scientists experimented with spiders to see how drugs like LSD, marijuana, and caffeine affected them. The results showed that spiders spin their webs differently depending on the type of drug they receive. The more toxic the drug, the less organized their webs become. After losing a battle in World War II for taking a tea break, the British Army perfected the art of making tea inside a tank by creating the British Army boiling vessel. It is a built-in kettle for armored vehicles. There is a sport or game called archery tag. The concept is like dodgeball, but instead of foam balls, foam-tipped arrows are used. Players wear protective masks and use special bows, and the goal is to eliminate opponents or hit targets to bring teammates back into the game. A study in 2013 shows that bottlenose dolphins have the longest memories in the animal kingdom. In fact, they can remember the whistles of other dolphins they have lived with even after 20 years of separation. In 1981, 1 gigabyte of storage could cost more than $1 million. Today, thanks to the massive drop in hard drive prices, that same amount of space can cost just a few cents per gigabyte, which shows how much storage technology has become more affordable over time. Coca-Cola has produced more than 3,500 different types of beverages. That means if you drank one per day, it would take you more than 9 years to try them all. This wide variety includes soft drinks, juices, water, energy drinks, and teas, adapted to different markets around the world, where the company adjusts flavors and products according to the cultural preferences of each region. This is the largest coin pyramid in the world, built by volunteers in Lithuania, and it consists of 1 million coins. It was created as a collective project that brought together people from different communities, who donated coins to form the structure. In addition to its size, the pyramid symbolizes cooperation and joint effort, and it became a local attraction that stands out both for its visual value and its community meaning. Most of the time, the ice cream you see in television commercials and other advertisements is actually mashed potatoes. This is because regular ice cream would not withstand the heat of the studio lights during filming. In 2001, Robin Williams met and became friends with Coco, the gorilla who communicates using sign language. After learning of Robin Williams' death, Coco made the sign for the word cry and remained somber for the rest of the day. In 2014, an entrepreneur named Mochi Sung developed facial recognition software for cats. It is intended to help cats maintain their ideal weight by recognizing their faces and tracking their food intake. Nobody likes a fat kitty. This is Malcolm Myatt. He suffered a stroke in 2004, and since then has been unable to feel sadness again. It is a bit awkward when he goes to funerals. His case has been studied because it shows how certain areas of the brain are related to emotions and how their alteration can radically change the way a person experiences feelings. The United States possesses one of the most powerful aircraft carrier fleets on the planet, with a number that far exceeds that of the rest of the world combined. These giants of the sea function as mobile air bases capable of projecting military power in any ocean, which explains why the country maintains such a significant advantage in this type of vessel compared to other nations. Underwater hockey is a sport where two teams compete to push a puck along the bottom of a swimming pool into the opposing team's goal. It originated in England in 1954 and is also called octopush. Players use snorkels, fins, and a small stick to maneuver the puck, which requires great endurance and coordination. Additionally, communication underwater is limited, so teamwork becomes essential. A survey conducted in 2011 shows that the American pizza industry serves about 0.39 square miles of pizza per day. This figure reflects the enormous consumption in the country, where millions of pizzas are prepared daily and national chains dominate a large part of the market. In addition, pizza consumption is so ingrained that there is even a national day dedicated to celebrating it every year. A study shows that soccer players run an average of 7 miles per game. This distance can vary depending on the position, as midfielders usually cover more ground than defenders or forwards. Additionally, it is not just about the total distance, but the intensity, with constant changes of pace, sprints, and pauses that require great physical endurance and cardiovascular capacity. In the Middle Ages, doctors believed that passing gas into jars and smelling it would prevent death, or more specifically, the plague known as the Black Death, which they called therapeutic stench. How disgusting. This idea was related to the miasma theory, which held that diseases were transmitted by bad smells, so it was thought that other strong odors could counteract them. One of the 5 things people regret most when they are dying is having worked too much and missed time with family. So, if you are a workaholic, this gives you something to think about. These kinds of reflections come from testimonies collected by palliative care professionals, where many people agree that they would have preferred to spend more time on personal relationships than on career achievements. They also often mention the desire to have lived with less social pressure and more authenticity in their decisions. Mike Tyson had been arrested no fewer than 38 times by the time he was 13 years old. He was sent to a home for boys where he discovered he could box and began training professionally with a former boxer. The rest is history. The amount of money that the United States spends on its military is almost the same as that of the rest of the world combined. Of the 8,400 attack helicopters in the world, the United States owns 6,400, and the United States has 10 aircraft carriers, the same as the rest of the world combined. In 2013, a bank employee in Germany fell asleep on the number 2 key of his keyboard, causing him to transfer 222,222,222 euros in a transaction that should have been worth only 62 euros. Interestingly, his coworker was the one who got fired for not catching the error. The ancient Babylonians took beer production very seriously, as it was an important part of their daily life and economy. There were strict laws to regulate its quality, and those who did not meet the standards could face severe punishments according to the norms of the time. Although we laugh when we are tickled, it is actually the body's defense mechanism that activates in response to panic and anxiety. This phenomenon is related to 2 different types of tickling, called nismesis and gargalesis, and it is usually more intense in vulnerable areas such as the neck or the armpits. Interestingly, the brain reduces the response when you try to trigger it yourself, which suggests a strong component of surprise and alertness in this reaction. Although Zambia has some very fertile land, they do not have agriculture there because every time crops are grown, the local hippos come out and eat everything. The portrait of the Queen of England has appeared on enough international currency to create a progressive timeline of her aging. Throughout her reign, her image appeared on coins and banknotes from numerous Commonwealth countries, showing different stages of her life as the decades passed. Tigers are nicer than lions. Lions fight to the death over prey, but tigers that encounter other tigers while hunting often share their meals. Oh, and male tigers usually wait for females and their cubs to eat first. As you can see, chivalry is not dead. There is a place in California called Glass Beach, where years of people dumping trash along a stretch of coastline have led to the development of smooth sea glass. Believe it or not, tourists in the area like to collect the glass, so now a movement has emerged to replenish the beach with discarded glass. According to research, our voices change when we encounter people we find attractive. These vocal modulations tend to be subtle, and the speaker is generally not aware of the change. For example, Many people adjust their tone, rhythm, or intonation to sound more pleasant or interesting during interaction. Not only do radar detectors exist, but there are also radar detector detectors and even detectors of radar detector detectors. These devices were developed in response to traffic regulations and police strategies, creating a kind of technological arms race between drivers and authorities to evade or identify surveillance systems. Cerro Rico in Bolivia is known as the mountain that eats men, due to the large number of men who have died there while working in the mines. In fact, historians have estimated that around 8 million men have died in the mines since the 16th century. Lillian Weber is a woman from Iowa who sews a dress from scratch every day so that a child in need can have something beautiful to wear. She has made more than 840 garments in recent years for an organization called Little Dresses for Africa. There are a total of 15 countries that have absolutely no military force, including Costa Rica, Liechtenstein, and Samoa. In many of these cases, national security is managed through international agreements or internal police forces rather than traditional armies. For example, some rely on allied countries for defense, while others have adopted historical positions of neutrality or demilitarization to focus their resources on education, healthcare, and social development. No human has won a standard tournament chess game against a high-spec computer since 2005. Because computers have become so powerful, it is likely that it will never happen again. From advances like Deep Blue to modern systems like AlphaZero, chess engines have far surpassed the human level, being able to analyze millions of positions per second and learn strategies that even surprise grandmasters. Perfectionist people tend to demand a lot from themselves, which can generate high levels of stress and affect their emotional well-being if they fail to meet their own expectations. That is why it is important to remember that making mistakes is natural and part of learning, and that being more flexible with yourself can help you live with greater peace of mind. Although Wikipedia is seen as a massive and open project, much of its content has historically been driven by a relatively small group of very active editors. Various studies have pointed out that a minority accounts for a large portion of the edits, which influences which topics are developed the most. Even so, the platform has millions of articles in hundreds of languages and maintains systems of review, discussion, and constant monitoring to improve accuracy and detect errors or vandalism. An oil sheik from Abu Dhabi named Hamad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan carved his name into the desert with letters that are more than 3,280 feet tall. I guess if you have unlimited money, it is better to have a little fun with it. Watermelon contains high levels of vitamin B6, so eating it can help relieve stress and anxiety. It is also rich in water and antioxidants like lycopene, which supports hydration and may contribute to cardiovascular health. Its citrulline content helps improve blood circulation, and since it is low in calories, it is a refreshing option that can support overall well-being in hot climates. There is an island in Alaska that reflects in such a way that it looks like it is floating in the air. Mother Nature is a crazy scientist. This visual effect occurs when the water is completely calm and acts like a perfect mirror, creating an optical illusion known as a superior mirage. This phenomenon is more common in cold regions like Alaska, where temperature differences between the air and the water can distort light and produce scenes that look out of this world. In 1961, a girl named Michelle Rochon wrote a letter to President Kennedy expressing her concern about Santa Claus's safety during Soviet nuclear bomb tests near the North Pole. Incredibly, he responded by telling her that he spoke with Santa Claus and that there was nothing to worry about. The richest woman in Germany, Susanna Klatten, met her husband while doing an internship for BMW under a false name in the 1980s. He had no idea who she really was until she was sure about the relationship and revealed herself. The Hanover County School Board in Virginia attempted to ban To Kill a Mockingbird in 1966. When she found out about this, the author Harper Lee sent a letter to the school board asking if they knew how to read and write, and offered some money to enroll them in first grade. Ouch. While filming Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, Tom Cruise vandalized the tallest building in the world. He climbed to the top of the Burj Khalifa and wrote the name of his then-wife, Katie Holmes, on the spire. How awkward that is now. In reality, the scene was part of a controlled filming with strict safety measures and no real damage to the building. Although it is called football in the United Kingdom, the term soccer actually originated in Britain in the late 1800s, not in America. The word comes from association football, which was abbreviated as ASOS and later evolved into soccer as university slang. Over time, in countries like the United States, that term remained to distinguish it from other types of football, while in the United Kingdom it fell out of use. Scientists have begun to argue that we may actually have more than 5 basic senses, including magnetoreception, the ability to detect magnetic fields, and chronoreception, the sense of the passage of time. Others have also been proposed, such as proprioception, which allows us to perceive body position, and interoception, related to internal signals like hunger or heart rate. After winning the FIFA World Cup, German footballer Mesut Ozil donated his €300,000 victory bonus to help fund surgeries for 23 Brazilian children. The donation went toward medical treatments that many families could not afford, especially surgical procedures needed to improve the children's quality of life. This gesture was widely recognized and added to other charitable actions the player has supported throughout his career. In 2008, as part of a fundraising effort, Father Adelier de Carli from Brazil tied 1,000 balloons to a chair in an attempt to break the world record for the longest time flying with balloons. Unfortunately, winds pushed him off course and he lost contact with land. Sadly, he was found dead at sea weeks later. In China, there is a law regarding the rights of the elderly that makes it illegal for anyone with parents over 60 years old not to visit them regularly. This regulation is part of broader legislation aimed at protecting the emotional and physical well-being of older adults, requiring children to maintain frequent contact. In some cases, parents can even file lawsuits if they feel neglected or ignored. If you multiply 111,111,111 by 111,111,111, you get the magical mathematical result of 12,345,687,654,321. Incredible. The customs documents that the Apollo 11 crew supposedly signed after returning from the moon were actually signed by a robotic arm weeks after they came back to Earth. These forms were part of a standard entry procedure into the country, where moon rocks and dust samples were declared as cargo. The Kids Wish Network was named the worst charity in the United States in 2013. According to a report, only 3 cents of every dollar raised actually went toward granting children's wishes, while the rest of the money went directly into the pockets of the organization's operators. Well, there is a special place in hell for those people. In 1978, a student working a summer job at minimum wage could easily pay for a full year of tuition at any public 4-year university of their choice. My goodness, how things have changed. According to some experts, it costs only $15 to produce a pair of Beats by Dre headphones. That is a huge profit for Dr. Dre, considering that the cheapest pair sells for $200, while the most expensive is marketed for $700. That is a pretty nice profit margin. Air pollution in China is so bad that it is actually visible from space. In cities like Beijing, smog levels have become so dense that they drastically reduce visibility and affect daily life. Satellite images have captured these clouds of pollution, especially during peaks of industrial emissions and heavy coal use, which has led to stricter measures to improve air quality. A man in Saudi Arabia placed a community refrigerator outside his home and asked his neighbors to donate any excess food they had so that those in need could get something to eat without having to beg for it. What a good man. Jonathan Ive, the head of Apple's design department and the man responsible for the iMac, iPod, and iPhone, helped design Eve from the movie WALL-E. His influence can be seen in the character's minimalist style and clean surfaces, as Pixar sought inspiration from modern industrial design to give it a futuristic and functional appearance. Castoreum is an anal secretion that beavers use to mark their territory. It smells like vanilla and has been used in foods and perfumes. It is often labeled as natural flavoring. So the next time your girlfriend smells like vanilla, she actually smells like beaver butt. The University of Oxford is so old that one of its constituent colleges, New College, was actually established in 1379. The University of Oxford itself had already been teaching since the late 11th century, making it one of the oldest academic institutions in the English-speaking world. Additionally, New College was founded by William of Wykeham and stood out for its innovative educational and architectural model for its time. Have you ever noticed that old books have a distinct smell? Well, that is because the organic compounds in paper break down over time and release chemicals that smell like vanilla, almonds, and grass. Ruth Lawrence is a child prodigy who passed the entrance exam to the University of Oxford when she was only 10 years old, ranking first among 530 candidates. She graduated after just 2 years in the undergraduate program and earned a doctorate by the time she was 17. Since Iceland became a republic in 1944, only one case has been recorded in which the police caused the death of a person, which occurred in 2013. This fact reflects the exceptionally low level of violence in the country, where serious crime is rare and police, in most everyday situations, patrol without carrying weapons, relying more on prevention and social trust than on force. In 1963, Alfred Heineken designed the Heineken World Bottle, a brick that contains beer and can be used to build houses. Unfortunately, the project was never realized, and the Heineken Estate and Museum are the only two places in the world with a wall made of beer bricks installed. That sounds like a tasty wall. Pablo Escobar collected exotic animals for his personal zoo. When his estate was raided, his hippos were released into the wild, and now Colombia has the largest population of hippos outside of Africa. These animals adapted to the local ecosystem and began to reproduce without natural predators, which has raised environmental concerns due to their impact on rivers and native species. Finland has the highest rate of bottle recycling in the world, with a return rate of more than 90% for plastic bottles and cans, and nearly 100% for glass bottles. This is largely due to its deposit and return system, where consumers receive money for returning containers, encouraging massive participation. Sandwiches taste better when someone else makes them. Seriously. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman explains that this is because when we make our own sandwiches, we anticipate their taste and therefore consume them mentally beforehand, which makes us feel less hungry afterward. There is a regular Barbie called the Lamely doll, where the doll has brown hair, cellulite, stretch marks, freckles, acne, and more. It was also given the proportions of a typical 19-year-old young woman. It was created as a more realistic alternative to traditional dolls based on body averages obtained from studies of teenagers. Additionally, it included accessories like imperfection stickers to reflect natural changes in the skin and promote a healthier body image. There is a fish called blue cod that has blue flesh. When it is cooked, the blue color disappears completely. It is an alien fish. This happens because the pigments responsible for the color break down with heat, changing its appearance to a more common color. This type of phenomenon is also seen in other foods where temperature alters the chemical properties of the compounds responsible for color. Dogs do not feel guilt or shame. However, they do feel sadness when their owners yell at them. What many interpret as a guilty face is usually a learned response to appease the human, showing submissive signals such as lowering their ears or avoiding eye contact to reduce conflict. Meet Amu Haji, an Iranian hermit whose life defied all norms. He went more than 6 decades without bathing because he believed that cleanliness would make him sick, living in extreme conditions and developing unusual habits such as smoking dried animal dung. His story not only amazed the world, but also sparked curiosity about how the human body can adapt to completely unconventional lifestyles. He passed away in 2022 at the age of 94. George R.R. Martin was so impressed with Jack Gleason's portrayal of Joffrey in Game of Thrones that he sent him a personal letter saying, "Congratulations on your wonderful performance. Everyone hates you." During job interviews, Google does not ask for grade point averages or test scores from candidates because they do not correlate at all with success at the company. Over time, the company has prioritized skills such as problem solving, critical thinking, and adaptability, considering that these factors better predict performance in dynamic environments than traditional academic results. In 2003, a 5.91-inch skeleton was found in a ghost town in Chile, and scientists classified it as human, with skeletal development equivalent to that of a child between 6 and 8 years old. Later research indicated that it was a human fetus with rare genetic mutations that affected its growth. The Kumbuk River Resort in Sri Lanka is a hotel shaped like a giant elephant. Guess where the entrance is? This curious structure was built mainly with natural materials, such as wood and straw, and it became famous for its striking design in the middle of the jungle, offering visitors an unusual experience very close to nature and local wildlife. There is something called invisible art, where the works are imagined by the artist and described to the audience. In 2011, a woman named Amy Davidson bought a piece for $10,000, saying she identified with the ideology of the Non-Visible Art Project. There is a sucker born every minute. After Hurricane Katrina, the Emir of Qatar donated $100 million to help rebuild homes, hospitals, and schools. He visited the area a few years after the disaster to check on its progress. Dave Thomas worked at KFC before founding Wendy's. In fact, he was the one who designed KFC's signature chicken bucket. During his time working alongside Colonel Sanders, he also helped improve the presentation and marketing of the product, which contributed to the chain's growth. That experience was key for him to later launch his own fast food business with great success. The Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia is the largest salt flat in the world, with 4,086 square miles, and becomes the largest mirror in the world when it rains. It is so beautiful that it has been called the border between the sky and the earth. Jack Nicholson grew up believing his mother was his sister and his grandparents were his parents. He did not discover the truth until both his mother and grandmother had died. The truth came to light when journalists were investigating his past during his rise in Hollywood, revealing that he had actually been raised that way to avoid the social stigma of the time. This story has been mentioned in several interviews and biographies of actor Jack Nicholson, and it remains one of the most striking cases of family identity in the entertainment world. We generally do not think foods are too sweet until our bones stop growing. This is why children tend to like sweets much more than adults. This is because during childhood, the body requires more energy for growth, which influences a greater preference for intense flavors like sweetness. In addition, with age, taste receptors and sensory perception change, making adults more sensitive to excess sugar. Napoleon Bonaparte was buried without his penis. It was removed during his autopsy and given to a priest in Corsica. Over time, the object passed through various hands and private collections, becoming one of the strangest relics associated with historical figures. Today, it remains a curious topic within the history of Napoleon Bonaparte, surrounded by anecdotes and controversy. In 2013, Volkswagen introduced the innovative Volkswagen XL1 model, designed to achieve extremely low fuel consumption. Its lightweight carbon fiber structure and futuristic aerodynamic design allowed it to reach remarkable efficiency figures. However, its production was very limited, making it a rare and highly exclusive piece within the automotive world. Buzz Aldrin's first words after landing on the moon were, "Beautiful view, magnificent desolation." This moment occurred shortly after Buzz Aldrin joined Neil Armstrong on the surface during the historic Apollo 11 mission in July 1969. The most important organisms in the world are marine algae because they produce between 70 and 80% of our oxygen. In reality, much of that oxygen comes from phytoplankton, a group of photosynthetic microorganisms that live in the oceans and also play a key role in regulating the climate by absorbing carbon dioxide. Their balance is essential for life on the planet. There are thousands of rogue planets in our universe, and it is entirely plausible that any number of these planets could harbor life. These worlds, which do not orbit any star, could retain internal heat thanks to geological activity or thick atmospheres that trap energy. Some scientists suggest that beneath the surface, there could be liquid oceans protected from extreme cold, opening the possibility of life forms adapted to conditions very different from those on Earth. During the late 1800s, a baboon named Jack was employed by the railway in Cape Town, South Africa as a signalman. He never made a single mistake and worked for the railway until his death. He was trained by his owner, a railway worker, and even learned to operate levers correctly under supervision, which earned him a small salary and daily rations. In 2014, Margaret Lawfrey won the Northern Ireland lottery jackpot, which amounted to $46 million, but she donated $44 million of it to her own hometown to help transform it into a tourist destination. Route 50 in the United States is also known as the loneliest road in America, due to the vast, desolate areas the road passes through. This nickname became popular in the 1980s after an article warned about its long stretches without services. It crosses several states, including deserts and mountains, offering remote and little-traveled landscapes. The Tucano tribe in South America has a rule where men must marry outside their linguistic group so that children can be born into a bilingual environment. This practice, known as linguistic exogamy, helps maintain cultural diversity and encourages members to learn multiple languages from a young age. In some communities, a person may become fluent in several languages, which facilitates communication among different groups within the Amazon region. There are approximately 10 quintillion insects on our planet. That is a 10 followed by 18 zeros, roughly 200 million insects per human. This enormous number reflects their ability to adapt and reproduce, as they inhabit almost every ecosystem on the planet and play key roles such as pollination and the decomposition of organic matter. In 2012, a man named Robert Biggs was attacked by a mountain lion while hiking. Incredibly, a bear saved his life by attacking the lion and scaring it away. The incident occurred in a forested area of North America, where both predators share territory. Although it is extremely rare for a bear to intervene in such an attack, experts believe it may have reacted out of territorial instinct, which unexpectedly benefited the hiker. New York City has the area code 212 because, at the time, rotary phones were used, and the number has the shortest dialing time. This was because combinations with lower digits were faster to dial, so they were assigned to cities with high call volume. Other major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago received similar codes, optimizing efficiency in an era where every second in dialing had an impact on telephone networks. Benjamin Franklin designed the first official penny of the United States and called it Fugio. Instead of the usual "In God We Trust" written on the coin, it said, "Mind your business." The coin also included a sun and a sundial with the Latin phrase Fugio, which means "I fly" or "time flies," along with the message "Mind your business," interpreted as a call both to mind your own affairs and to be diligent in your work. Elephants remember and mourn their loved ones like we do, sometimes years after their death. Behaviors have been observed where they return to the remains of other elephants, touching the bones with their trunks and remaining in silence, suggesting a complex emotional and social life. People have started putting QR codes on the gravestones of their loved ones. Scanning them will take you to online tributes for the deceased, where you can read their obituaries. Technology has gone too far. In many cases, these codes also link to photo galleries, videos, and messages left by family and friends, creating a kind of interactive digital memorial. Some companies even offer personalized pages that are updated over time, allowing new generations to learn about the person's story. Charbonnet-Labat Funeral Home gained attention in 2014 for offering personalized farewells, where some people were remembered in poses that reflected aspects of their lives. This style had already appeared earlier in 2008 in Puerto Rico, and since then, it has sparked interest in different places as a unique form of tribute. The founder of Victoria's Secret, Roy Raymond, sold the company in 1982 for $4 million, but by the early 1990s, it was worth $1 billion. After the sale, the company was acquired by The Limited, which boosted its growth through a more aggressive marketing strategy and store expansion. Over time, it became one of the most recognized lingerie brands worldwide. An Australian man named Don Ritchie lived across from a very well-known cliff in Australia called The Gap. For more than 50 years, whenever he saw someone going through a very difficult moment, he would calmly approach them, start a conversation, and offer to stay with them, even inviting them to his home for tea. Thanks to his kindness and attentiveness, he managed to help many people feel better and change their decision. The extinct dodo bird got its name from the Dutch. They called the bird dodars, which loosely translates to fat bottoms. The bird needed a diet. It inhabited the island of Mauritius and, having no natural predators, lost the ability to fly over time. Its extinction in the 17th century was mainly due to the arrival of humans, hunting, and the introduction of animals like rats and pigs that destroyed its nests. Germany is a graveyard of unexploded bombs from World War II. An average of 2,000 tons of buried munitions are discovered there every year. Be careful when you go out for a casual walk in Germany. Specialized teams are responsible for locating and defusing them, and mass evacuations are sometimes carried out when large devices are found. In 1997, 3 men from Yemen attempted to sue NASA for trespassing on their property on Mars. They claimed they had inherited the planet from their ancestors 3,000 years ago. But of course, they did not win because there is an international treaty that states that everything in the solar system, except Earth itself, belongs to everyone in the world. Throughout history, each new technology has reached millions of people faster and faster. Radio took decades to reach a large audience, followed by the telephone and television, while social media accelerated this process dramatically. Platforms like Facebook reached millions of users in just a few years, and the case of Google Plus was even more extreme, reaching a massive number in a matter of weeks. Scotland has the most concentrated pattern of private land ownership in the entire world. Only 432 people own half of the private land there. It is like a game of Monopoly, just with more deaths. This concentration has historical roots in old feudal systems and in the so-called Highland clearances, when many communities were displaced to make way for large estates. Today, there are movements seeking to redistribute land and promote community ownership. In 2014, scientists at MIT designed a device to help blind people read without Braille. It is called Finger Reader, and users can use it to scan a line of text with their finger and receive an audio response of the words. In Germany, there is something called Street Pong, where there are touchscreens installed at traffic lights, so you can play Pong with people on the other side of the street. This project was designed to make waiting more entertaining and also to encourage pedestrians to obey traffic signals. Monopoly was originally invented in 1903 to expose the injustice of a social system where a small minority exploits the majority of tenants. Its creator, Elizabeth McGee, designed it as a critique of land hoarding and abusive rents, although over time its original purpose faded as it became a mass commercial game. The ITT Technical Institute in the United States was investigated in 2011 for inflating students' grades to obtain more money from the government. In fact, in one of those cases, a student received 100% on a forensic computing assignment, even though the only thing he turned in was a noodle recipe. Architects in Australia designed a housing concept called Cliff House. The concept shows a 5-story home hanging from a cliff on the southwest coast of Australia with incredible views of the Indian Ocean. That is not something I would ever live in, because heights terrify me. Samuel Morse was originally an artist, but he abandoned his career to develop a way to communicate over long distances after his wife fell ill and died while he was away on an artistic assignment. This event deeply motivated him, as he received the news too late due to the slow communications of the time. From then on, he dedicated himself to perfecting the telegraph and the code that now bears his name, revolutionizing the way people communicated across long distances. In 2013, Google established a company called Calico that focuses on health, well-being, and longevity. However, what is strange about it is not that its goal is to extend human life, but that it aims to cure death. That is creepy. Ducks have accents, seriously. Just like humans, they are influenced by their environment, and this affects their communication, making them quack with regional accents. Studies have shown that they can imitate sounds they hear from a young age, which influences how they communicate within their group. In 2011, 1/3 of all divorce filings recorded in the United States contained the word Facebook. Divorce lawyers say that the use of social media in divorce proceedings and child custody battles has been increasing. Research shows that sleep patterns are linked to important personality and behavioral traits, and that people who stay up late tend to take more risks than those who wake up early. After visiting Cambodia in 2002, Angelina Jolie purchased a large area of land in the northern province of Battambang, which was known for poaching, and turned it into a natural reserve. She was granted citizenship in response to her actions in 2005. Madagascar is home to some of the most exotic organisms on the planet. Around 90% of all plant and animal species found in Madagascar are endemic, which means they are exclusive to a specific geographic location. Robert De Niro was considered one of the most extreme method actors in Hollywood because he actually learned to box in Raging Bull and spent time driving a taxi for his role in Taxi Driver. He also gained a significant amount of weight to portray different stages of his character in the film, showing an uncommon level of commitment. This intensive approach to his roles established him as one of the most respected actors of his generation. This is a house carved entirely into rock. It was created by a hermit named Daniel Zistel in the late 1400s. These structures were often used as isolated shelters for religious life, and many of them are still preserved in regions of Central Europe as unique examples of rock-cut architecture. Researchers have found that, for a century, female students have consistently earned higher grades than male students, and although fewer women choose to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, they excel in these subjects. Patrick Stewart began losing his hair when he was only 18 years old and started to believe that no woman would ever be interested in him again. Now, he is happily married to his third wife. Over time, he embraced his appearance and made it part of his identity. which even influenced his stage presence and iconic roles. His career in theater and film shows how confidence and talent can overcome personal insecurities. A moment is actually a medieval unit of time equivalent to 90 seconds. There are 40 moments in an hour. This term comes from the Latin momentum and was used in religious and scientific texts of the time to divide time more precisely before modern standardization. The Hawaiian island of Niihau is also known as the Forbidden Island. Elizabeth Sinclair bought it in 1864, and now her descendants, the Robinson family, own it. The island is completely off-limits to everyone except the owners, their relatives, and invited guests. I do not know why you would invite a guest to this island. It is creepy. In 2010, George Lucas committed to dedicating most of his wealth to improving education and, just 2 years later, sold Lucasfilm to Disney and donated most of the funds to a foundation focused on education. The KGB attempted to pressure the then president of Indonesia, Sukarno, using compromising material. However, far from feeling intimidated, he reacted calmly and even with humor, going so far as to ask for more copies of the material to share in his country. Professor Sam Van Aken from Syracuse University created the Tree of 40 Fruits, a multicolored tree that produces, you guessed it, more than 40 different types of fruit. This project combines art and science, as it is achieved through careful grafting of different varieties of stone fruits such as peaches, plums, and apricots onto a single tree. In addition to its visual value, it also aims to preserve old species that are disappearing. Australia literally lost a prime minister, Harold Holt, on December 17, 1967, when he went swimming and simply never came back. Despite one of the largest searches in the country's history, his body was never found, and the case remains one of the most talked-about mysteries in Australian politics. North Korea has an ambiguous policy regarding marijuana. Although for years the idea has spread that its use is legal or tolerated, in reality, there is no clear and official information confirming it. The country maintains very strict laws on drugs in general, and various reports indicate that its use can be punished. In January 2013, the finance minister of Zimbabwe announced that his country had only $217 left in its bank account. This situation reflected years of economic crisis and hyperinflation that had forced the country to abandon its own currency and adopt foreign currencies such as the United States dollar. Since then, Zimbabwe has attempted to restructure its financial system, although it has continued to face economic difficulties and liquidity problems at different times. There are 8 levels of charity in Judaism, with the highest being supporting someone or helping them find a job so they can become self-sufficient. In 1999, a woman named Penny Brown saved the life of a young boy named Kevin Steffen by performing CPR after he was hit in the chest with a baseball bat. However, just 7 years later, he ended up saving her from choking by performing the Heimlich maneuver. That is karma. At just 32 feet, this is reportedly the shortest international bridge in the world, connecting Canada and the United States on the St. Lawrence River. Oh, however, although this seems to be a well-known fact, it is actually a myth. The 2 islands the bridge connects are actually both in Canada. You see, do not trust everything tour guides tell you. The very first e-commerce transaction was a drug deal in the early 1970s, when Stanford students used ARPANET, the first version of the internet, to buy marijuana from students at MIT. You can rent the entire country of Liechtenstein for $70,000 a night. In fact, Snoop Dogg once tried to do that in 2011 for a video shoot, but the country said no, mainly because he did not give them enough advance notice. There is an app called Wakey where, instead of a normal alarm, you can be woken up by a call from a stranger somewhere else in the world. There is an animal called the Kashmir musk deer, or vampire deer, that was spotted for the first time in more than 60 years this past November in Afghanistan. These creatures are extremely rare because poachers sell their musk glands for more money than gold. The last words of Marie Antoinette were, "Sir, I ask your pardon." She was apologizing to her executioner after accidentally stepping on his foot on her way to the guillotine. This gesture was interpreted by many as a sign of courtesy even in her final moments during the French Revolution. Her execution took place in 1793 in Paris, marking one of the most symbolic episodes of the end of the French monarchy. In 2008, cooks in Iran tried to break the world record for the longest sandwich, but failed when the crowd started eating it before it could be measured. The attempt took place in the city of Tehran, and the sandwich measured more than 0.93 miles long, prepared with ingredients like chicken and vegetables. The lack of crowd control made it impossible to complete the official measurement, leaving the curious event as a failed but memorable attempt. The role of Captain Jack Sparrow was originally offered to Jim Carrey, but he turned it down for the role in Bruce Almighty. Eventually, the character was played by Johnny Depp, whose eccentric performance redefined the role and made it one of the most iconic pirates in modern cinema. Researchers at the University of Michigan have found a way to allow people to have night vision. They developed a graphene contact lens that allows users to change the type of light they see. This material is capable of detecting infrared light, which is normally invisible to the human eye, and converting it into perceptible signals. Unlike traditional devices, these lenses do not require a bulky power source, which opens the door to applications in medicine, security, and rescue in low-visibility conditions. President Andrew Jackson managed to pay off the entire national debt of the United States in 1835. It was the only time in history that the country was completely debt-free, and it lasted exactly 1 year. How things have changed. Stainless steel actually helps remove the smell of garlic and onion. This happens because the sulfur molecules responsible for the odor bind to the metal when you rub it under water, reducing their presence on the skin. That is why there are soaps made of stainless steel that are specifically used for this purpose in the kitchen, offering a simple and reusable solution to eliminate persistent odors. Every day, Facebook users share such a massive number of photos that it is hard to imagine. Hundreds of millions of moments captured in just 24 hours. Over the years, this has created a colossal archive of images that far exceeds hundreds of billions, turning the platform into a kind of collective visual memory of humanity, where everything from everyday moments to historical events is stored. There is a charity called Food for the Poor that gives more than 95% of its income to the poor. Ironically, the name of its chief executive is Robin Mahfood. Makes sense. Like my food. Mahfood. Jay-Z, the Notorious B.I.G., Busta Rhymes, and DMX all went to the same high school in Brooklyn. In fact, Busta Rhymes and Jay-Z once had a rap battle in the cafeteria. An artist from Iowa named Patrick Acton built a full model of Hogwarts with 602,000 matchsticks, held together by nearly 60 liters of wood glue. The piece took him several years of meticulous work and became one of his most complex creations, standing out for its level of architectural detail. A company in Singapore manufactured a pair of soft drinks called Anything and Whatever. Both product lines had 6 flavors each, but they had generic packaging designs, so there was no way to know what flavor was inside each can. It is a great idea, except that it was eventually discontinued in January 2010. The highest flying bird in the world is the Ruppel's vulture. There is confirmed evidence of one flying at an altitude of 37,073 feet above sea level, during which it collided with an airplane. This record was obtained in 1973, when the bird was found in an engine after the impact, demonstrating its incredible ability to withstand extremely low oxygen levels and very cold temperatures at altitudes close to those of commercial aircraft cruising levels. Dysania is the state of having difficulty waking up and getting out of bed in the morning. I am pretty sure we all suffer from that. Although it is not a widely recognized formal clinical term, it is related to sleep disorders, fatigue, or irregular habits, and it can improve with consistent routines and good sleep hygiene. Jonathan is a giant tortoise that lives on the island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic Ocean, believed to have been born in 1832 and still alive to this day. He is considered one of the longest living land animals known and has witnessed enormous historical changes over nearly 2 centuries. After the movie Fight Club was released, a bunch of fight clubs started popping up all over the United States. A gentleman's fight club was started in Menlo Park, whose members were exclusively from the tech industry. That would be interesting. It would be like, okay, I'm going to punch you now. Greenland allows its inmates great freedoms as part of its open prison system, designed to rehabilitate prisoners. Inmates are allowed to leave the facilities during the day to work or study, and even go hunting with rifles. Believe it or not, some of them even have the key to their own cell. In 2011, a 75-year-old woman accidentally cut off all internet access in Armenia after she mistakenly severed an underground cable while searching for copper. The incident occurred in a rural area and also affected parts of neighboring countries, as the infrastructure relied heavily on that connection. This highlighted how vulnerable the network can be when it depends on a few critical links. In the 1930s, an Argentine engineer named Juan Baigorri Velad created a machine to make it rain, reportedly causing rain in several places at once successfully, and then disappeared without a trace. His demonstrations attracted great attention in the press at the time, although no solid scientific evidence was ever presented to confirm the actual functioning of the device. Simo Häyhä, one of the deadliest snipers of World War II, racked up more than 500 confirmed kills. Interestingly, he preferred using iron sights instead of telescopic ones, as they allowed him to maintain a lower profile and avoid reflections that could give away his position, while also providing faster target acquisition in extreme conditions. Peacock flounders are masters of camouflage and can match the color of a chessboard if placed on one. This phenomenon is due to special cells called chromatophores that allow them to quickly change color and pattern to adapt to their environment, helping them avoid predators and surprise their prey. Within the United Kingdom, accents change noticeably approximately every 25 miles. This variation is due to centuries of regional isolation, historical influences, and social differences that shaped pronunciation and vocabulary. Even within the same city, there can be distinct nuances, making the United Kingdom one of the places with the greatest diversity of accents in the English-speaking world. In 1898, the company Bayer introduced diacetylmorphine as a medication that was promoted to relieve cough and as an alternative to morphine. Over time, its highly addictive effects were discovered, and it stopped being used for that purpose. Today, this substance is known as heroin. The word electrocute comes from the combination of electro and execute, which means death by electric shock. Originally, the term was used strictly to describe a death caused by electricity, although over time, its use has expanded colloquially to any electric shock, even when it is not fatal. The Boeing factory in Everett, just north of Seattle, is so massive that rain clouds began to form inside the facility until they were eventually forced to install a state-of-the-art air circulation system. Video games can be good for children with autism because they help them practice skills such as self-awareness, flexibility, and self-control. Additionally, many games offer structured and predictable environments that make it easier to understand social rules and make decisions. Some are even designed with therapeutic goals, helping to improve coordination, communication, and problem-solving in a safe and controlled space. By paying attention and actively noticing more things, we can train our brain to seemingly slow down time. This is because when memories are more detailed, moments appear to last longer and the brain takes more time to register information, making time seem to pass more slowly. A teenager from the United Kingdom named Rory McGuinness secretly painted a 59-foot penis on the roof of his house and was discovered more than a year later when his parents looked up their home on Google Earth. The Marvel Avengers movie caused shawarma sales to skyrocket across the United States in 2012, purely because of an extra scene where Thor, Captain America, Bruce Banner, and the rest of the heroic crew casually enjoy shawarma after saving the world. Sture Bergwall was known in the 1990s as a notorious killer in Sweden. He confessed to more than 30 murders and other crimes, but it turned out he was actually just a compulsive liar and manipulator, and he never killed anyone or committed any crime. He has issues. The man has issues. Russian billionaire Vasily Klyukin wanted hospitals to be more welcoming, so he designed one that resembles a luxury yacht called White Sails Hospital, which a Tunisian businessman plans to build in the next 15 years. Sideburns got their name from a general of the American Civil War named Ambrose Burnside, who was known for his unusual facial hairstyle. Over time, his last name was reversed to form the modern term, reflecting how his appearance left a lasting mark on the language. Electronic Arts hired people to pose as Christians to accuse the company of being the Antichrist because of the video game Dante's Inferno as a marketing strategy, and it was incredibly successful. The campaign generated controversy and media attention as it simulated protests to provoke public debate, showing how some advertising strategies can take advantage of controversy to increase the visibility of a release. In 2005, a girl in Ethiopia was taken by force and saved by 3 wild lions. The lions, incredibly, scared away the attackers and stayed with her until the police found her. Fennec foxes mate for life. Male foxes become especially aggressive with each other when mating season approaches to protect their partners. In addition, these pairs usually share the care of their young, with the male responsible for bringing food while the female stays in the burrow. reinforcing the bond and increasing the chances of survival of the litter in desert environments. The French Republican calendar was created during the French Revolution. It had 12 months, but each month had 3 weeks of 10 days. Each day consisted of 10 hours. Each hour had 100 minutes, and each minute was 100 seconds. In 2010, in Stockholm, Sweden, a temporary campaign called the Speed Camera Lottery was implemented, where good drivers could win money from the fines of other drivers who were speeding. This is what the delivery of a computer looked like in the 1950s. At that time, machines like the UNIVAC 1 filled entire rooms and required specialized transport, often on large trucks with cranes for installation. These machines were not personal devices, but industrial tools used by governments and large corporations, with such a high cost that only a few organizations could afford them. A wild pig in Australia once stole 18 beers from some campers, got drunk, and then fought a cow. The incident occurred at a remote campsite, and the animal, after consuming the drinks, showed erratic behavior before confronting nearby livestock. The Sagrada Familia, designed by Antoni Gaudí, is a large Roman Catholic church in Barcelona whose construction began in 1882 and continues to this day. Although it was once estimated that it could be completed in 2026, the work has faced delays, so its full completion still does not have a definitive date. By definition, if you commit any crime at sea, you are considered a pirate. However, in modern legal terms, piracy involves specific acts such as robbery or violence in international waters, so not all maritime crimes fall into that category under international law. The aquarium at the Golden Nugget in Las Vegas has a water slide also called the Shark Chute, where you can pass through the tank and see the sharks. The slide goes through a tank with real sharks and other marine species, protected by a transparent tunnel that allows a close and safe view as you go down. Pineapples were considered a status symbol in the 18th century. They were seen as a symbol of wealth and power, and in England, people could rent one for a night to show off to guests at parties. There is a website called freerice.com that allows people to donate to charities by playing multiple choice quizzes. For every correct answer, 10 grains of rice are donated through the World Food Program. The lowest grade of meat is called canner and comes from very old cows with little fat in their tough meat. It is used both in dog food and in school lunches. This type of meat is usually used in processed products, where the texture is modified through industrial methods to make it more consumable. When he died in 1937, John D. Rockefeller's wealth was equivalent to 1.5% of the total economic output of the United States. To put that into perspective for you today, that is the equivalent of 4 times the net worth of Bill Gates at his peak. Studies show that just 1 week of outdoor camping with only natural light is enough to reset the body's biological clock to normal sleep rhythms. In other words, if you have trouble falling asleep, just go camping. There is a tradition in Glasgow of placing a traffic cone on the head of the Duke of Wellington statue. Normally this would just be like, haha, that is funny, except that removing the traffic cones costs an estimated £10,000 per year. Your taxes at work. Traffic in London is famously bad. In fact, central London moves at an average of only 10 miles per hour, which is approximately the same speed as horse-drawn carriages from a century ago. In Queens, New York, in 2010, a 12-year-old girl named Alexa Gonzalez was arrested, handcuffed, and held in a police precinct for several hours just for doodling on her desk. Yes, that is a bit strict. Naturally, purple eyes do exist. This is attributed to a condition called Alexandria's genesis, which causes pale skin and purple-colored eyes. Eyes can appear violet in very rare cases due to the mix of blue and red tones in light or certain medical conditions. Canada has more lakes than the rest of the world combined. Of all the natural lakes in the world, more than 50% are in Canada. This enormous number is largely due to glacial activity during the last ice age, which left thousands of depressions in the land that later filled with water. Many of these bodies of water are located in remote regions, which has helped preserve nearly untouched natural ecosystems. This is what a honeypot ant looks like. These ants gorge themselves so that other ants can extract nutrients from them. It is a bit unsettling, but useful. They act as living storage units within the nest, storing sugary liquids in their swollen abdomens to feed the colony in times of scarcity. Lois Gibson is the most successful forensic sketch artist in the world. By being patient and speaking with victims, She is able to draw out realistic descriptions of suspects. At the last count, in 2007, she had helped solve more than 1,000 crimes in Texas alone over the 30 years she had been on the police force. It is actually possible to find traces of DNA on cigarette butts. An artist named Heather Dewey Hagborg used cigarette butts and old chewing gum she found on the streets to create three-dimensional portraits of the people whose DNA was found on those objects. Well, that is one more reason not to litter. How creepy. Avatar, directed by James Cameron, remains one of the highest-grossing films of all time, with worldwide revenue exceeding $2,900 million after its re-releases. Its impact on the industry was enormous, especially due to its advances in visual effects and innovative use of three-dimensional cinema. A man named Paz snuck into Paris Hilton's 30th birthday party and stole her $3,200 birthday cake when he realized that no one there was going to eat it. He ended up dividing the cake into 125 pieces and serving them to homeless people. Emotions and stress can negatively affect your body. Negativity can even decrease your immune system's response to disease. Studies in the field of psychoneuroimmunology have shown that chronic stress can alter the production of hormones like cortisol, weakening the body's defenses. Additionally, positive emotional states are associated with better recovery and greater resilience against infections. To protect the city's water, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power purchased 80 million hollow black balls to cover its reservoirs. This was done to prevent sunlight from triggering dangerous chemical reactions. That is why I prefer bottled water. Tires for the Bugatti Veyron cost $42,000 per set and only last 15 minutes at top speed. That is not a good investment. They are designed to withstand extreme speeds of more than 248 miles per hour, so they wear out quickly under those conditions. Although in normal use, they can last much longer. The Sarpa selpa is a fish that, on rare occasions, can cause unusual effects if consumed, especially certain parts of its body. In ancient times, even during the Roman Empire, it became associated with curious experiences. Margaret Ann Cargill left all her shares to be divided between two charitable organizations after her death, totaling $6 billion. This made her the most generous philanthropist in the world in 2012, even though she died in 2006. Domestic animals are much smarter than you might imagine. In fact, some pets pretend to be sick just to get special attention from their owners. This behavior is associated with their ability to learn and observe, as they can recognize which actions trigger emotional responses in humans. People who are in love can synchronize their heartbeats just by looking into each other's eyes. Oh, how sweet. Research has observed that, in certain couples, heart rate and breathing can temporarily align during prolonged eye contact. This phenomenon is associated with empathy, emotional connection, and the release of hormones like oxytocin, known for its role in bonding. A man pretended to have a mental illness to get out of prison because he thought living in a psychiatric hospital would be better. However, once he arrived at the asylum, he tried to leave, but the doctors diagnosed him as a sociopath. This was because pretending to have a mental illness to escape prison is exactly the kind of manipulative behavior expected from a sociopath. Stephen Colbert actually exists in the Marvel Universe. He ran for president and helped Spider-Man defeat a villain. His appearance occurred in a comic where he portrayed a fictional version of himself, blending humor with the narrative of the Marvel Universe. This type of cameo is common and serves to connect pop culture with superhero stories. When Teddy Roosevelt was a child, he had debilitating asthma, except that doctors did not understand the condition at the time and told him to smoke cigars and drink coffee and whiskey. As expected, none of these remedies cured his condition. In January 1961, the United States Air Force suffered an accident when a bomber broke apart in midair near Goldsboro, North Carolina, causing 2 nuclear bombs to fall. Fortunately, they did not detonate, and the incident led to strengthened safety systems to prevent risks in handling this type of weapon. Despite being much smaller in size, the wolverine can successfully attack much larger animals, including caribou and moose. This animal is known for its disproportionate strength, its aggressiveness, and its ability to travel long distances in search of food, which allows it to take on prey that far exceeds its size. In both Canada and the United States, the government requires that any income, no matter its origin, be reported for tax purposes. This includes money obtained from illegal activities. The idea is that all earnings must be recorded and taxed, even if those activities remain illegal and subject to penalties. The Dead Sea has an unusually high salt concentration, with about 8 or 9 times more salt than natural seawater. This means that people can float easily in the Dead Sea due to its natural buoyancy, although I would not recommend trying it because it is somewhat unsettling. Vin Diesel got his first acting opportunity when he was only 7 years old, after he and his friends broke into a theater to vandalize it. A woman stopped them and offered them a script and $20 each, on the condition that they attend rehearsal every day after school. A recent study found that a nap of 45 to 60 minutes during the day could improve learning and memory up to 5 times. Researchers say that a short nap at the office or at school is enough to significantly improve learning success. In Dubai, there is a weight loss competition called Your Child in Gold. The campaign is aimed at early childhood obesity, and the winners receive 88 pounds of gold. The first three-dimensional feature film was called The Power of Love and premiered in 1922 in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, the three-dimensional version of the film is presumed lost, and the two-dimensional version was later shown under the name Forbidden Lover. Research shows that others see you as 20% more attractive than you think. This is because when you look at yourself in a mirror, all that is reflected is your appearance, not your personality. Additionally, people tend to notice gestures, confidence, and attitude, aspects that one rarely perceives clearly in oneself. Tashirojima is an island in Japan that is also known as Cat Island. The population of stray cats there is greater than the human population. Cats are considered symbols of good luck by the residents, and their presence has helped attract tourists, becoming a distinctive feature of the place. Currently, there are plans in Berlin to create something called the House of One, which is a synagogue, a church, and a mosque, all under one roof. This interfaith project aims to promote dialogue and coexistence among different traditions, bringing together Jewish, Christian, and Muslim communities in a single space. The initiative arose from local religious leaders and has received international support as a symbol of cooperation and mutual respect in a city marked by its cultural diversity. Greek statues are not actually white as we once thought. Ultraviolet light has revealed that they were originally painted in bright colors, but after thousands of years, the paint wore away to show the statues as we know them today. In 1979, a woman named Elvita Adams fell from the top of the Empire State Building but survived when a strong gust of wind pushed her onto a ledge a few floors below. She was rescued alive by emergency personnel, and the case became one of the most surprising examples of accidental survival. Small pseudoscorpions, which usually measure from 0.08 to 0.31 inches long, are often found in rooms with dusty books. They actually protect books by feeding on book lice and dust mites. And now, everyone is wondering when was the last time they dusted. A man named Christian Poincheval invented a range of pills designed to make people's gas smell like chocolate or roses. These capsules are made with natural ingredients like charcoal, fennel, and plant extracts, intended to help digestion and reduce unpleasant odors. The idea emerged as a curious solution to awkward social situations and has attracted attention for its unusual approach. Ninjas did not actually wear black. According to museums dedicated to ninjas in Japan, the best color to wear at night was actually dark navy blue. This is because pure black stands out more under low light, while darker tones like blue or gray blend better with natural shadows, making stealth easier during their missions. Every president Egypt has had has left office either by being arrested under military custody or by dying in office. This trend reflects the political instability that has marked the country's modern history, especially during periods of internal conflict and regime change. White Coke is a clear version of Coca-Cola, commissioned by Soviet Marshal Georgy Zhukov in the 1940s. He requested it because he was a fan of Coca-Cola, but did not want to be seen drinking it in public, so he asked for it to look like vodka instead. Yes, because it is much better to drink vodka in public than Coca-Cola. Do not even think about drinking Coca-Cola in Russia. But vodka? That is fun for the whole family. Property owners in New York City can request that trees be planted on their street for free. They are even allowed to suggest which species to plant. This program is managed by the city's Parks Department, which evaluates the available space and soil conditions before approving the request. Additionally, residents can participate in caring for the trees, which helps improve air quality, reduce urban heat, and beautify neighborhoods. At the age of 15, Anne Makasinski managed to invent a flashlight that works solely on the body heat of the hand. She later created a headlamp that also runs on body heat. Her invention uses thermoelectric modules that convert the temperature difference between the skin and the air into energy, a solution designed especially for communities without reliable access to electricity. There is an animal native to East Asia called the raccoon dog. It looks like a raccoon, but it is actually a dog. It belongs to the canid family, is more closely related to foxes than raccoons, and is one of the few canines capable of partially hibernating during the winter. In 1992, the CEOs of Southwest Airlines and Stevens Aviation settled a dispute over who could use the slogan "Plain Smart" with an arm wrestling match instead of dealing with a long and tedious legal battle. I feel like that should happen more often. A good old-fashioned arm wrestling match. Betty Davis and Joan Crawford were rivals for a long time. When Joan Crawford died, Betty Davis said, "You should never say bad things about the dead, only good. Joan Crawford is dead. Good." Christopher Robin Milne, the son of the author of Winnie the Pooh, A. Milne, and the person on whom the character Christopher Robin was based, actually hated the books his father wrote and believed that it was a way his father exploited his childhood. There is a hybrid of a knife and a fork called a nork. Great idea, not such a great name. This utensil combines serrated edges with prongs, allowing you to cut and spear food with one hand, making it practical in certain informal situations. India's successful mission to Mars cost less than the production of a Hollywood movie. The mission cost £99 million, while the movie Gravity, starring George Clooney and Sandra Bullock, cost £128 million. A scientific study from the London School of Economics in 2010 shows that men who are unfaithful tend to have lower intelligence quotients. The study suggests that, on average, men with higher intelligence tend to value monogamous relationships more, although these results have been debated and depend on multiple cultural factors. Cold showers are actually healthier than hot ones. Among other benefits, they improve immunity and circulation and relieve stress and depression. They can also help reduce inflammation and support muscle recovery, which is why they are popular among athletes and people who regularly engage in physical activity. A small town in Japan called Inakadate has revitalized itself by creating art in rice fields. This style of art is made by combining a variety of rice grains in different patterns to create stunning images. Steve Jobs once gave his secretary a brand new Jaguar after she told him she was late because her car would not start. This gesture also reflects his unpredictable personality, as he could be extremely demanding at work, but at times surprised people with generous acts toward those close to him. Emperor penguins can dive up to 1,854 feet underwater, which is deeper than any other bird, and they can remain submerged for more than 20 minutes. To achieve this, they reduce their heart rate and store oxygen in their muscles, adapting to extreme conditions. In September 1940, two planes collided over Brocklesby, Australia, and became locked together. The engines of the top plane stopped working, but those of the bottom plane kept running, so the pilot of that plane safely landed both aircraft and all 4 crew members survived. Rockall is an uninhabited granite islet in the Atlantic Ocean. Fewer than 20 people have been there, which means more people have landed on the surface of the moon than have landed on Rockall. Hans Zimmer, the composer of music for more than 150 films, has never had any formal musical education. Despite this, he developed his talent in a self-taught way and became one of the most influential composers in modern cinema. His style combines traditional instruments with digital technology, creating memorable soundtracks for major productions that have impacted generations of audiences. Male kangaroos flex their biceps and fight with other males to attract females. These fights include balancing on their tails to deliver kicks with both legs, which can be very powerful. Additionally, the size and strength of the male usually influence his reproductive success within the group. There is a Twitter account called Big Ben Clock that posts bong 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 every hour. It has been doing this since 2009. Whoever runs that account needs a hobby. This type of automated account is usually programmed to post continuously, and some become popular for their consistency and simplicity. In the 1970s, Senator Larry Pressler refused to accept a bribe offered to him by the FBI. He was called a hero for doing so, but he did not believe that rejecting a bribe should be considered heroic. Good point, Senator. A teenager in Taiwan died after playing the video game Diablo 3 for 40 hours straight without eating. The case was reported as an extreme example of physical exhaustion, where the lack of rest, hydration, and food can have serious consequences. Situations like this have led to discussions about the risks of prolonged gaming sessions and the importance of maintaining healthy habits even during digital leisure. The longest road in the world is Highway 1 in Australia, with a total length of approximately 9,010 miles. It actually connects multiple highways that circle almost the entire continent, passing through major cities and remote areas, and was officially completed in the 1950s. The pangolin is a mammal that looks like a reptile due to its scales. Its scales are made of keratin, which is the same material as human nails. These structures serve as defense, as it can roll into a nearly impenetrable ball when it feels threatened. In addition, it is a nocturnal and solitary animal that feeds mainly on ants and termites using its long, sticky tongue. This is what agriculture looks like in Saudi Arabia. Most of these circular fields are due to center pivot irrigation systems that draw underground water from deep aquifers. Thanks to this technique, it is possible to grow wheat, alfalfa, and other crops in the middle of the desert, although the intensive use of water has raised concerns about long-term sustainability. In 2014, Japanese designer Akihiro Mizuuchi created edible chocolate Legos that were actually functional. He even printed the Lego logo on each block, for those of us who want to be creative and obese. The Gippsland Lakes in Victoria, Australia actually glow in the dark. The light is created by a chemical reaction called bioluminescence, when natural microorganisms in the water are disturbed. Just do not drink it, because you will get sick. Bright, but sick. An ornithologist named George Archibald managed to save the whooping crane species from extinction by spending 37 years acting as the mate of a female crane that believed he was human. He eventually succeeded in getting her to mate with a real bird, and the rest is history. In a related note, approximately 25% of Russian men die before reaching 55 years old, mainly due to alcohol. This phenomenon has been especially linked to excessive consumption of strong drinks like vodka, along with social and economic factors that have influenced public health in the country for decades. Edward Jones, or Boy Jones, was known in the Victorian era for being caught breaking into Buckingham Palace at 14 years old and stealing Queen Victoria's underwear. What a pervert. His intrusions happened on multiple occasions, which raised concerns about palace security and made him a widely discussed figure in the press of the time. Alan Gans holds the world record for the longest career as an ice cream man. He has been serving ice cream since 1947 in the Boston metropolitan area and knows 90% of his customers by name. There is a hotel at the top of Mount Foronon-Buins in the Julian Alps that accommodates only 9 people. Guests can stay there for free as long as they are willing to hike 8,300 feet to get there. Yeah, that does not seem worth it to me. In 2009, the Nigerian police arrested a goat on suspicion of attempted armed robbery. The case went viral because some witnesses claimed that a suspect had used magic to transform into a goat after attempting to rob, which led the police to detain the animal. As absurd as it sounds, the episode reflected cultural beliefs and sparked debate about superstition and police procedures in the region. Believe it or not, it is possible to donate your voice. There is an organization called Vocalid that encourages people to donate their voices so they can recreate synthetic voices that are as unique as fingerprints, intended for people who have speech impairments. Exercising increases productivity. Having a regular exercise routine can make you happier, smarter, and more energetic, and therefore help you perform better throughout the day. Additionally, physical activity improves circulation and oxygen flow to the brain, which supports concentration and memory. It also helps reduce mental fatigue and maintain more stable energy levels, especially when practiced consistently. A man in New York named Robert Samuel is a professional line stander who earns up to $1,000 a week simply by waiting in line for other people. So the next time you want that new iPhone or tickets to a show, you know who to call. John Shepard Barron, the inventor of the ATM, originally intended for them to have 6-digit personal identification numbers, but his wife could only remember 4 digits at a time, so that became the standard. Sloths can swim 3 times faster than they can move on land and can hold their breath underwater for up to 40 minutes. This is because they can significantly reduce their heart rate, allowing them to conserve oxygen for longer periods of time. A single Google search query requires more computing power than was needed to land Apollo 11 on the moon. This is because the computers used in the Apollo 11 program had extremely limited capabilities compared to modern systems. In contrast, Google processes massive amounts of data in fractions of a second through distributed data centers, reflecting the enormous technological advancement in just a few decades. It is completely possible to see the Milky Way, but light pollution has made it a rare occurrence. In fact, in the 1990s, there was a massive blackout in California, and residents of Los Angeles began to worry about the strange clouds they saw above their heads. It turned out they were seeing the Milky Way for the first time. Robert Gleason Jr. was an inmate who was involved in one of the most extreme cases within the United States prison system, stating that he would continue being violent if he remained in prison. His case ultimately concluded in 2013 with the application of the death penalty. In Finland, there is an annual competition called Kanto, where men compete by carrying their wives through an obstacle course. The winner receives their wife's weight in beer. This event has specific rules about how to carry the partner and attracts international participants every year. Samuel J. Seymour was the last surviving witness of Abraham Lincoln's assassination. He lived long enough to talk about his experience on a television program in 1956. The kuru nabe is a pot developed in Japan that can stir its own contents when the water inside the pot becomes hot enough. This design takes advantage of convection currents generated by heat, allowing food to cook more evenly without the need for additional utensils. Billboards have been banned in Vermont since 1968 to preserve the natural beauty of the state. This law also helped promote tourism and maintain cleaner visual landscapes, making it one of the few places in the United States with such strict regulation. The Nasir al-Mulk Mosque in Iran is known for its incredible stained glass. When the morning sunlight shines through the windows, the interior of the mosque reflects the glass like a kaleidoscope. Since 2005, Utah has reduced its homelessness rate by 78% by providing apartments and social workers, which actually costs less than annual emergency room visits and jail stays. Mozart had a dirty mind. He once composed a piece in B-flat major called Leck mich im Arsch, which literally translates as "lick my butt." There is a phenomenon called cellular memory. It occurs when organ transplant recipients experience the same thoughts and desires as their organ donors. Theoretically, it is possible to become addicted to hugs. Couples who hug frequently can experience oxytocin withdrawal when they are separated from each other. This hormone, associated with bonding and trust, is also released during physical contact and helps reduce stress, strengthening emotional connections. There is a competition called the World's Biggest Liar that is held annually in England. Competitors from all over the world have 5 minutes to tell the biggest and most convincing lie they can come up with. Believe it or not, politicians and lawyers are banned from participating because it is believed they are too good at lying. The Great Gatsby originally sold very poorly, with only 20,000 copies sold in its first year of publication. In fact, F. Scott Fitzgerald died believing his work was a failure. If only he could see it now. There is an English law called right to light that allows owners of long-standing buildings that have received natural light for at least 20 years to prohibit any construction that blocks their windows and deprives them of that light. It is easier to get into Harvard than to get a job at Apple's newest store in New York. Harvard's acceptance rate is 7%, while Apple's is only 2%. This is due to the huge number of applicants attracted by the brand and the working conditions in its flagship stores. Roger Frisch, a concert violinist, was awake when he underwent brain surgery to eliminate his tremors. His surgeons had a private concert during the operation while Frisch played the violin as the doctors worked on his brain. Arch West, the inventor of Doritos, was buried with Doritos sprinkled over his body. Arch West's family decided to honor him that way as a nod to his legacy in the snack industry. During the funeral, some of his favorite products were even placed directly into the urn. Vikings never wore horned helmets. The only helmet discovered from Viking heritage shows a rounded iron cap and no horns at all. The image of horned helmets became popular much later, especially in the 19th century, through artistic representations in operas that aimed to make them look more imposing. In reality, that type of decoration would have been impractical in combat and has no archaeological support. The Amur leopard is a beautiful but rare subspecies of leopard located in the Russian Far East, and it is critically endangered. It is estimated that just over 100 individuals remain in the wild, and its survival depends on conservation programs that aim to protect its habitat and reduce poaching. In 2014, a homeowner in England accidentally left a guest bedroom window open for 3 months. This allowed about 5,000 wasps to get in and build a massive nest in the bed. The wasps chewed through about 8 inches of mattress and pillows, but pest control at least managed to save the blanket. Damn hungry wasps. One of the main reasons night vision goggles are green is because the human eye is more sensitive to wavelengths of light near 555 nanometers, that is, green, and can distinguish more shades of this color than any other. Instead of its gross domestic product, Bhutan measures its development and prosperity by its gross national happiness. It has been doing so since 1971 and is the only country that does it. This approach considers factors such as psychological well-being, culture, the environment, and quality of life, seeking a balance between economic growth and the happiness of the population rather than focusing solely on financial indicators. At Highland Washuzan Park in Japan, there is a terrifying roller coaster called Sky Cycle. On it, people actually pedal to move themselves forward along the track. It is located at a great height, which increases the sense of risk, and its open design makes visitors feel constant vertigo throughout the entire ride. The Burj Al Arab in Dubai is the only 7-star hotel in the world. However, the hotel management never uses this term to describe itself. The notion was introduced by a British journalist who described the Burj Al Arab as something beyond anything she had ever seen and called it a 7-star hotel.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.